A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. Is that right? Hello everybody, how's it going? Hope you're all well. And welcome back to the channel. A channel which is now in its 10th year, believe it or not. And in that time I've made 400 plus videos. Might be more than that, might be 450. Who cares? I've made lots of videos and I've decided that I should therefore start taking this channel a bit more seriously. And so I have. I've bought a C-stand, which means for the first time ever, I think, we've got a proper top-down shot. Who knows if I'll use it? I hope I do, because this C-stand is massive and this room is tiny and I keep banging into it. So I hope I use it. Anyway, the question I'm asked most these days is, James, where are the kids? To which I normally respond, but the question or the topic I'm asked most about after the whereabouts of my kids is how I go about shooting in bright conditions. And if you're new to this channel, if you don't know who I am, I shoot, if not exclusively, I'd say 95% of the time these days, in blue skies, harsh shadows, midday sun. I love it. And I think the reason I'm asked about this more than anything else is probably because this isn't considered massively conventional in photography, outside of kind of street photography where people really revel in harsh shadows. Sometimes I shoot in cities, but more often than not I am in some kind of nature. And even so, I love shooting in these conditions. So I thought today what I could do is talk a little bit about some of the things I think about when I'm doing so in order to get the kinds of photos I want from those conditions, which can be quite challenging to shoot in. So that's the name of the game today. Right, first tip, and something I've talked about extensively before on this channel, and something that applies to all the photos that I'm going to show you today, I think, is that I always shoot with the sun in front of me, in 180 degrees in front of me. Said more simply, I never want the sunshine on my back. Said more simply than that, I always want to be able to see shadows in whatever it is that I'm shooting. And the reason for that, and as you can see in these photos here, you can see all the shadows. You've got a shadow down here, shadow down here, shadow here, shadow here. And the reason I care so much about being able to see shadows in my scene is that then you guarantee yourself depth in your scene. If the sun is on your back, if you can't see shadows, it means that your scene is going to be quite evenly lit. And if your scene is evenly lit, it's going to lack depth. So that's kind of an overarching principle to everything I'm going to talk about today. The sun needs to be kind of in front of me somewhere. And of course, like everything in photography, there are exceptions, but the vast majority of the time, that's what I'm looking for from the direction of the sun. Okay, next principle. By the way, all these photos I've taken over the past few months, I've just been sort of assessing what I've been up to the past few months, because I was feeling yesterday like I hadn't really achieved much. So I wanted to go through my photos and see what I'd been up to. And largely it looks like I've been just shooting silhouettes on beaches, which I do like to do, but I've done an awful lot of it this year. I might need to change it up at some point. But these photos here I think do a good job of explaining another principle that I like to consider when I'm out shooting in these conditions, which is luxury. They say that luxury can be defined by light and space, and all the photos that we're talking about today have been shot in an abundance of light. That's the point of the video. But I find pairing that abundance of light with lots and lots of space works really, really well. And light, sunlight particularly, is something that we as human beings crave. And I think space is much the same. So being able to provide those two things together, I think does work really well. And so practically speaking, when I'm out shooting, I'm often thinking about how wide can I get away with shooting here? How much sky can I get away with including in the scene without losing a sense of what the subject is, without the subject getting swallowed up in the vastness of, well, in this case, beaches. And I think if you take any of these scenes and made them much tighter, I don't think they would work quite as well, because as I say, I think really bright light is complemented by an abundance of space. So yes, negative space, typically in the sky, I think works really, really well. I should say also that lots of these photos that I'm showing you today are from the coast, they're from beaches. That is because predominantly that's where I like to shoot, and it does work really nicely for bright light as well. I don't think you need to be at the coast to shoot in bright light, but I do think the clean horizons lend themselves perfectly to these kinds of conditions. And I don't know actually which I discovered a love for first, bright light or shooting at the coast, but They do work well together. So yes, light and space is pleasing on the face. I think the kids are back. They definitely are. So we might be interrupted at some point, but I'll keep talking until we inevitably are. And I'll bring this one back to talk very briefly, actually, about bright skies, because I'm always asked about bright skies, and I love bright skies. I find that bright, basically detailless skies are fantastic for drawing your attention towards the subject itself, because there's no distraction. So I really, really like them. But when you're shooting at the coast specifically, you need to be really careful with bright skies because you can't always get away with them. So these bottom two photos, I could get away with them because the sun was so high in the sky, the water was calm, and therefore the water was incredibly reflective. And when the water is bright itself, the sky can then be really, really bright. But these top two photos, it's not possible to have a really, really bright sky because the ocean isn't really, really bright. This photo on the left was shot 2 or 3 hours maybe before sunset. The one on the right was shot 2 or 3 hours after sunrise. So the sun isn't quite as high in the sky. The water isn't quite as calm. It's therefore darker, and the sky therefore needs to reflect that. You can't just get away with having super bright skies regardless of whatever else is in the scene. It needs to match. Anyway, tiny bit off topic that one, but it will inform how you expose and or edit. So it's important all the same. It's not really off topic, is it? Bright skies, yeah. Okay, next up, this is a big one. I find, personally, that even though I want the sun in 180 degrees in front of me, I don't want it in my frame. And if the sun itself is in my frame, unless it's behind heavy, heavy haze, I find it quite ugly. So I want it to be in front of me, but I don't want it to be in my frame, which is challenging often if I'm trying to shoot relatively wide to get lots and lots of space around my subject. So I typically want big skies, and if you want big skies without the sun in them, you are restricted in terms of where you can shoot. So this is challenging. It's much, much harder, I find, to shoot at these times of day than it is to shoot in gold now when everything is soft. But I do find it worthwhile when it comes off. And actually, this is quite a cool shot. This looks like golden hour, but this is probably 2 or 3 hours before golden hour started. It's just that these storm clouds came in, and outside of the sun bursting through, it made everything look much darker and more golden than it should have for the time of day. So that was quite interesting. By the way, this paper is my favourite paper ever. If you've ever bought a print from me, it will have been on 1 or 3 papers probably. Most likely over the years it'll have been printed on Hahnemühle German etching. A really heavily textured paper, beautiful paper, but I found one I prefer. And it's this one, Photospeed Platinum Etching Cotton. Not sponsored, although they do very kindly send me some paper every now and then. Phenomenal paper. It is textured, but not overly, and it's super bright. And I love printing on all matte papers, but this is my favourite. I never print on gloss, not because I don't like gloss, but just because I love matte so much, really. Right, next tip is to embrace contrast. Now, if you're used to shooting at different times of day, perhaps golden hour, blue hour, or in softer light, let's say, you'll probably be used to seeing histograms that are quite even. You've got lots of detail in the shadows, lots of detail in highlights, and everything in between. If you're shooting in these conditions though, that's not going to be the case regardless of how much dynamic range your camera has. And in my opinion, you don't really need to aim for it to be the case for you to have lots of detail in your shadows and lots of detail in your highlights, because contrast is fantastic. Now in these bottom 2 photos, contrast is helping frame what's going on in the scenes. And I would say this photo works better for not having any detail in the wall because you're not distracted by any detail in the wall, and therefore you can concentrate your attention on what this lady is pointing at. Similarly in this one, my eyes go straight to the cable car because I'm not trying to focus on detail in the trees. I can't see detail in the trees, and therefore I'm not distracted by it. Kind of similar to the benefits of the really bright highlights that I was talking about earlier, but in reverse, obviously. So that's one benefit of contrast. The other is mystery. And if you watch this channel, you'll know that I'm a big fan of mystery and photos posing questions, because I think questions and the unknown is what keeps us coming back to photos. And if I look at this area of this photo here, I can see some of the palettes, some of the containers, some of the crates, but not all of them. So I'm kind of wondering, oh, what's in there that I can't see? And that's another big benefit of contrast. Similarly here, there's a bloke walking near the sea there, and I'm wondering if there's anyone else down here in this patch of shadow that I can't see. And so yeah, I love contrast, and trying to find instances where I can use it to my advantage is one of my favourite challenges as a photographer. And yeah, it often provides a more interesting challenge than shooting at quote-unquote easier times of day, such as golden hour. And lastly, as you will know if you've tried to shoot in the middle of the day before, shadow detail can be incredibly messy and it can ruin scenes, and it's one of the reasons I think people don't typically like shooting in really harsh light when they're out in nature or not in big cities. And yeah, shadows can be challenging, they get messy very, very quickly, and it's for that reason that I tend to try and keep my compositions really simple. So these top two, for instance, you've got a lighthouse here right in the center of the frame, cloud in the background. This was on Gran Canaria at the start of the year. And then this was shot in Istanbul. And again, the tower is centered, the cloud is above it this time, but it's an incredibly simple composition. This was on a super bright, harsh day. And sometimes to avoid the really messy shadows, it pays to look for simplicity. Same with this big washed up beacon buoy thing on the beach. I've centered it in my frame, people around it, mountains in the background, and I've included the entirety of the shadow. That's another big one. And not really difficult to do because again, I'm trying to create lots and lots of space in the frame. But yeah, cutting off shadows never looks nice. So try and avoid that, in my opinion. And again, this last one, this hut in Antarctica, just centered slap bang in the middle of the frame. There's lots of other stuff going on and some kind of messy shadows, to be honest. And so when that's the case, I look to simplify my composition as much as I possibly can so that the photo is not such a mess that you immediately want to look away from it. Yeah, and so that's it. That's some tips on how I like to shoot in bright sunshine. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any tips of your own, please stick them in the comments for other people and myself to benefit from. That would be great. Pretty much all of these photos I think can be found on my website, in my portfolio, my Squarespace website, and a huge thank you to them for their continued support of this channel. And Squarespace has become integral to my business over the past decade of me using it. It's where I sell my books, my presets, my prints. It's where I advertise my workshops. And it's a phenomenal tool for any photographer, I think, looking to showcase their work online in a way that they control entirely. It's all templates, drag and drop. You don't need to know a single line of code. I certainly don't. And I happily recommend it to anybody who asks. So if you would like to try building a website, go to squarespace.com, start your free trial. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, just go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off that first purchase. And yeah, a giant thank you to you for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful.